The next step up the ladder is the new iPad Air. And well, new might be a slight exaggeration, because this is essentially a mix of a bunch of different parts from previous generation iPads. For example, the design is almost identical to the 10.5-inch previous generation iPad Pro. Now because of this, even though the iPad Pro, the iPad Air, and the iPad all have very similar form factors, they have 3 different screen sizes. The iPad is 9.7, this is 10.5, and the iPad Pro is 11-inch. The only real difference here is just how big the bezels are. While the screen size isn't a big difference, the panel itself is nicer here than on the iPad, mostly thanks to this being laminated to the glass, and it does share the exact same pencil support. So if you plug in a first generation Apple Pencil, it will work just as well, although, well, I guess this is working just as well. What is a bigger deal is the Smart Connector. Now with this, you can use the exact same keyboard from the 10.5-inch iPad Pro, and what this means is that it is very easy to have a fully wired keyboard on your iPad. Now sure, there are definitely Bluetooth options, and realistically they're going to be a lot cheaper and give you more functionality, but I like how thin this is. I like the idea that you don't have to worry about syncing, about charging, anything like that. The main problem though is that at $160, this very much pushes the iPad Air into pro territory. And this kind of comes down to what you actually want to do with your iPad. If you're just using it as a content consumption device, the software keyboard is totally fine. But for me, I actually want to get some more real work done, right? So I'm sitting around, I want to do email, I want to be able to write up documents, and a keyboard is absolutely essential here, which really does mean that this is not a negotiable thing when it comes to me using an iPad. So it's great to have it, but yeah, $160 is a lot for what's essentially a smart cover with kind of basic keyboard attached. Inside, the Air shares the exact same Apple A12 processor from the iPhone XR, the iPad mini, and it is plenty powerful for a system like this. Now sure, if you put it side by side with the iPad, it is more powerful, but in real world use, you're not really going to notice a massive difference. Even that A10 still feels very snappy by 2019 standards. Really, all of this comes down to what you want to do with your iPad. If it is that content consumption device, right? The extra power is always nice. I'm never going to complain about something that is too fast. But when you're considering that this is almost $200 more expensive, you really need to be able to actually get something for that. And the specs are a big part of it. And if you're not really using those specs, it kind of makes it a little bit of a harder sell. And that kind of comes around to my big issue with the iPad Air. It is a good iPad, and in a vacuum, if I don't drop it, it is a solid choice. But on the lower end, I actually do prefer the iPad and the iPad mini. And on the higher end, the iPad Pro is tough to beat, at least if you have the budget for it. Now when the first version came out, I tried to replace my laptop with it, and well, it definitely wasn't quite ready. Fast forward a few years though, and things have come a long way. First of all, the hardware on the iPad Pro is